The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome back to the UAB Director's Chair. He is the athletic director for your UAB Blazers, Mark Ingram. I'm Tony Kurre. We do the show every single week. Info at TonyKurreRadio.net. Info at TonyKurreRadio.net. If you get email questions, we get several to be thrown your way coming up on our show today. And of course, we are, this show is getting done on a Thursday. We are 6 weeks, I think, 6 weeks in college football season. Is that right?
That's right.
And it's great. It's just a fantastic time because it's like when you start talking about it, and obviously college football is king around here. It just feels so good to get back in the mix and start talking about starting lineups and returning starters and transfer portals and all that stuff. And it's just a wonderful time of the year. SEC media days. I know your media days all throughout all the leagues going on right now, and so it gives fans something to talk about. And I know that it's got to whet your appetite a little bit as an athletic director.
Yeah, well, you're starting to, we have media days next week, and you start realizing just what you just said. Man, we're 6 weeks before kickoff, literally today, 6 weeks. And, we have media days next week. So now you're 5 weeks, and then student athletes start showing up in other sports like our 2 soccer programs and volleyball. They all three get here, and football really never leaves, but their official start date is after those 3 because they play games before football does in August. But that's when you start realizing, like, oh man, the spring just ended and poof, we're right back.
Right? It's crazy. Yeah. And then of course school starts right over again. It's crazy. What conversations have you had with Trent Dilfer, your coach, over the summer months? Where is his head? I know that you speak very candidly about the situations at UAB, and that's why people love the show. But tell me where he's at going into his 3rd season as the UAB head coach.
Yeah, I think that to his credit, he is not a hard guy to talk to about areas of improvement. And he's very receptive to that and wants feedback. And so that makes him really unique, frankly, not just among football coaches, but just, among people in general. He's quick to admit flaws and fault. If he's made a mistake, he'll usually bring it to my attention before I have to bring it to his. As it relates to the team, he's very optimistic, as he should be, and I am too, about the defensive staff changes. Yeah. And I've asked some of the offensive coaches, hey, what have you seen differently on the defensive side? And they agree that they think that schematically we're going to be much improved. The defensive players who were here last year and still with us, they seem to be very energized about the changes. We've really gotten a lot more size up front on both sides of the ball. And I just think the experience of the coaching staff will help us schematically be in a better position for success. And it's not just, what I mean by that is like situational football where this down and distance with this much time on the clock, that's a situation. The experience level that we now have compared to what we did have is night and day. And so putting our players in a position to be more successful.
Having to know him a little bit, and I've been very blessed to do that. It was really interesting because this is his first major college gig. And it was interesting to see how he worked the books. And what I mean by that is he was a book guy. If the book says do this, then he was doing those things in year 1. And then year 2, you could kind of feel like, okay, just because it says I have a 47% chance of success, and this doesn't mean I should be doing this thing. Yeah. And he did, and it felt like he was doing it by the book, and that's because the book said to do it, and it blew up in his face a couple of times. Sometimes it worked, but he got much better at reading that book, if you will, and therefore getting more of a grasp on who he has as personnel in his football team in year 2. And I'm assuming that he's only growing that aspect in year 3, because there were so many times where we knew UAB had to outscore everyone they played. And so that meant going for it on 4th and 13 early in ball games. And if you didn't make that, next thing you're down, you're 14-0. And I know a lot of fans didn't like that.
Yeah, they didn't. And the book that you're talking about for the listeners is that there's several analytics companies that have put together through just research and the data of success over years and years of comprehensive research that says, like, hey, if it's, fourth down and this many yards on this yard line at this spot on the field with this much time left, you should or should not go for it. You should punt or you should. And that doesn't mean it's always right. It's just telling you what historically what the odds are. And a lot of people just live and die by it. And that's probably not a bad thing. What the analytics and those reports do not reflect is momentum. And so there are certain times in the game where you have a team on their heels, so to speak, and it might be a fourth down and something, and it says to kick a field goal, but you go for it because you've realized that the other team has struggled to stop this, whatever this is. And, offensively we have not had a problem moving the ball. We just have struggled defensively. And you look at last season, which we've talked about before, we were up 20-3 in the third quarter against UConn and lost. We were up 19-7 in the third quarter against South Florida and lost. And then we missed a field goal from the middle of the field, balls on the 7-yard line. We miss a field goal with no time on the clock. We make a field goal and we beat Charlotte. And our kicker was the special teams player of the year. And we missed it. And so that's how close we were to being in a bowl game last year. So I know that, 3 wins is unacceptable. Trent knows that 3 wins is unacceptable. But my hope is that our fan base will at least in a neutral way look at that and go, okay, we are pretty close, and be more encouraging to the staff and team, because I think if they will be, we can definitely get there.
For all things UAB Sports, go to UABsports.com, UABsports.com. This is the UAB Director's Chair show. We run at least 5 days a week here on TKR. Happy to do that. And of course, Mark, good friend of mine, and we're happy to do the show every single week. You can also find it wherever you get your favorite podcast. TKR in the top 10% of all podcasts nationwide on 18 different shows, including this one right here, the UAB Director's Chair. We're very, very proud of that. We're hoping and praying that he has the season that we all fully expect Trent Dilfer to have. And every year you start at 0-0 and it's a brand new season. And just, you just talking about the 3 games right there that perhaps they could have won that would have put them in a bowl situation. It totally flips everything around. So it's pretty amazing stuff. Info at TonyKurreRadio.net. Donald Trump is set to sign another executive order in the next couple of days to regulate and have a national standard for the NCAA's NIL program. And I've done a little research here, and it seems like no one knows what this order is, and of course he's written so many official executive orders since he's come in office. It doesn't mean anything's going to change. It just means he's interested in doing something with it. Have you heard anything about that? Is that something you welcome? Obviously we still have some loose ends to tie up here through this House versus NCAA situation.
I very much welcome it, because the NCAA is an easy target. They're easy to pick on. People think the NCAA is inept. That's not fair, and that's not true. What is true is they have just received an onslaught of lawsuits, and they've gotten to a point where members have started saying, hey, we're just going to do whatever we want. And that's unacceptable. You can't be a member of any organization and just say, I'm going to do what I want, and they can't stop me. So what the NCAA needs is the federal government not to manage them, but to give them permission again to enforce their own rules. And some states have even gone so far as to say, we've passed a state law that won't allow the NCAA to sanction any of our universities. That's crazy. And so somebody's got to step in and say, look, we've got rules against everything that we say is a problem in the modern era. We have rules against all of it. But the NCAA has gotten to a place where they can't even govern themselves because of the lawsuits and these, various sympathetic judges state by state who want to try to protect probably their alma mater. And that's what we're looking for here. And I think that's valuable. We've got to get back to an equitable set of rules. Just
Yeah.
There's not a rule. We have the rules. We need everyone to be back in line following those rules.
I totally agree with you. And I'm glad you mentioned that because you're one of the few people that's kind of been sided with the NCAA in this particular situation. We have to have somebody over.
They have their flaws. Look, man,
Yeah.
I'm not like think that the NCAA is perfect, but until we started paying players, it was pretty darn effective.
Yeah.
And that's when it got out of balance, is when the one thing we said you could never do, ever, don't ever pay a player, don't ever do it. And now we do it. And there were no rules around it because it was the cardinal sin of things you could not do.
Yeah.
And so we've just had to play catch up to get rules back in place that everybody is comfortable with. What can you do? What can't you do? But now we need help enforcing that.
We've got some breaking news in rock and roll. I know you're a big rock and roll guy, and we like to share those things outside the football season. So once football season starts, we're going to go all college football, but we will talk some rock and roll coming up here in a few minutes. To kind of go back through this House versus, and you've done a magnificent job at explaining this. A lot of people have not. And a lot of people are like, I don't want to know about that stuff. I just want to see football played. And I get that. But you really need to know what's going on because it's going to affect your favorite teams, period, one way or another. You're going to wonder why things don't look the way they should, or the way you're winning the way you should, or losing the way you should. And so we know that through the House versus the NCAA, that the Power Four conferences are going to have to pay somewhere between $600 and $700 million. And there's like almost close to $1 billion that the other 27 D1 conferences are going to have to pay out in this particular situation, which includes, of course, UAB. Tyler in Southside wants to know what exactly does the UAB, and I don't know if you can even tell me this, but I'm assuming you will. What exactly does UAB get every year from the AAC as far as in payouts go? We know that some conferences get $20 million, some teams get $30 million. And he wants to know what exactly does UAB have to pay out to the NCAA every single year and how long?
Yeah, so we receive about $3.5 million from the American Athletic Conference, and there's a slow escalator over a 9-year period as part of our entry into the American, moving up to almost $5 million. And there will be a renegotiation of television rights in there that, or if anybody, let's say, SMU exited the league, and when they did, there was a payout to everybody that was not a planned event, right? Mm-hmm. So if other teams leave the league, if Memphis, say, leaves the league, there'll be a payout back to us, a distribution to all the members. And, but that's unexpected money, right? So, but today it's 3.5 and it grows by 100 to 200,000 a year over the next 7 years. What we owe the NCAA is a withholding. So we also get monies from the NCAA.
Okay.
That basically comes from the basketball tournament, the men's basketball tournament. It's very successful, and that event runs the national office. That event runs all the other national championships. Again, to defend the NCAA, what people forget.
The basketball runs every other national championship.
It funds it.
It funds it.
Wow, it funds it. Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's that successful. And, the baseball national championship is successful. Softball is getting better. Women's basketball is getting better, but they lose money. If it weren't for the men's basketball tournament, we wouldn't be able to have any of the other championships. So remember, they're hosting the fencing national championship, and they're hosting, right, all the soccer championships. So you may or may not care about those, but the people that play those sports and follow them, they care. And it's funded by that. We, UAB, we run the beach volleyball national championship, the NCAA championship down in Gulf Shores. That is funded by the NCAA, which is their resource, primary source is the men's basketball tournament. But anyway, and then they give a distribution out to all the members. So they're going to withhold $417,000 a year from us, from UAB, every year for the next 10 years. So the fiscal year that we just finished was year 1. So 9 more now.
Okay. And then it's over, or that assumes it's going to be over.
That covers the House lawsuit, but we'll see what over means.
And so when you're talking about making 3.5 and then 4, so they're going to be taking 400,000 out. So tell me what Power 4 conferences or the Big Four.
The Southeastern Conference gets somewhere in the neighborhood of 80-something million a year from the Southeastern Conference. Each school does.
Wow.
The Big Ten is something like that as well. I don't know the exact number, but it's that different.
And what will they be paying back to the NCAA?
I've never had one of them tell me, but I think it's about triple where we are. I think it's somewhere in the $1.5 million zone. But when you're receiving what they're receiving, what they also receive is just a massive amount of money from the college football playoff.
Yeah.
College football playoff is not managed by the NCAA. It's the only championship that's its own governing body, so it does not report to the NCAA, is not managed there, which I think is problematic for a number of other reasons. But the SEC and the Big Ten get the lion's share of the revenue from that, then the ACC, then the Big 12. So to give you an example, the SEC, each member probably gets $25 million, $26 million from the college football playoff. That's in addition to that money I mentioned from the conference. We're getting $500,000 from the college football playoff. It's that different. And when I say we, everybody in the group of five.
When I was growing up, we had a family of 6. I have 2 brothers and a sister, and my mom and dad. We obviously weren't wealthy by any stretch. My dad had an old trailer, an old mobile home down in Kentucky, and we used to go spend 3 or 4 days down there. And we just go down there for 3 or 4 days just to clean it up because the raccoons would get in and they break the glass and everything. And then we'd never even stay in it. And 3 days later, we'd leave and come back, and that's all we did. I never even slept the trip. So, but we'd always sit down and go, where do you guys want to go this year? And it was usually a state park or somewhere around the state of Ohio. And so I would always come up with something like, I want to go horseback riding, or maybe let's go to a water park or something. And my idea never got chosen while everyone else was kind of on the same page. This is what it feels like if UAB was in a family where you're kind of, they're listening to your vote. And what do you think? And you're saying, well, I'd really like to do this. And they're like, okay, well, thanks. And you never get your way. That's what this feels like this is what it feels like with the Big Ten, the SEC, making up the plans and everything for everything else. They're just getting a ruler out and seeing who can push the ruler the farthest, if you know what I mean. And it's funny because while they do want to hear what you have to say, it doesn't go towards anything. I'm still trying to figure out, it's almost a mob mentality. I'm trying to figure out how, through the autonomy and everything of what happened in college sports over the last 3 or 4 years, how all of a sudden it's just the Big Ten and the SEC and no one else. Yeah. And everyone else seems to be okay with that. I mean,
no, they're not okay with it, but they've figured out a way to dominate that discussion. And so,
I mean, those 2 conferences are going to be deciding whether we go to 16 teams next year. And I know they're going to. Sankey's like, oh, well, if we can just do 12, then it's fine. We ain't going 12. We're going 16 because it means more money for everybody.
Right.
So the one thing it does do for the UABs of the world, and I like this, and thank goodness. And I think Notre Dame's, they played for the national title. And I know that college football is better when Notre Dame's good. I get that. They should be in a conference if they're going to be getting the same preferential treatment as everyone else. They should not get a special caveat just for Notre Dame every year because if they suck, it's ridiculous. But it does tell you, because we've always, as a fan for years, since I've done sports radio in 30 years, that we always felt like if you play your conference schedule and you play your schedule and you win every game, you should be rewarded with an opportunity to play for something much bigger. Not just a bowl game, not even a New Year's Day game, but play with the big boys. And I do think that because of the group of 5 installation of this and the vote that you'll get in there, they probably didn't have to do that, but at least they're throwing you a bone. And obviously there's a lot more smaller schools than are bigger schools. And I think that they recognize that. So it is nice to know that, the Cincinnati's of the world, the UAB's of the world, that if in fact you do roll off a season where you're 10-0, 11-0, you can start talking about playing with the big boys, which is nice.
Yeah.
So, and we didn't have that before.
No, I don't. I mean, but a true playoff means, just that, these automatic qualifiers to give the 4th place team in one of those leagues an automatic qualifier.
We talked about that. The 5 plus 11 is fine.
Better, but if you're better, just beat us.
Yeah, I just don't like the word automatic. I just don't like. It was a great song. It was a great song by the Pointer Sisters back in 1984. I love that song, Automatic.
Pointer Sisters,
Sisters, Automatic. Remember that song, Automatic? They used to have.
Yeah, I do.
It was a great song. Yeah, you can go up there and what is it? Petite? He's probably playing that in his office. It's a great song. Classic rock, Steve Miller Band. I told you I wasn't going to read it to you beforehand, but you need to know. Steve Miller Band just wrote on their X format here. You make music with instincts. You live your life by instincts. You always trust your instincts. The Steve Miller Band has canceled all of our upcoming tour dates. The combination of extreme heat, unpredictable flooding, tornadoes, hurricanes, massive forest fires make these risks for you, our audience, the band, and the crew unacceptable. So you can blame it on the rain, blame it on the weather. The tour is canceled. Don't know where, don't know when. We hope to see you all again. Wishing you all peace, love, and happiness. Please take care of each other, the Steve Miller Band. That sounds like the Steve Miller Band is done because weather's not going to change. It's not.
Yeah, it's either soon. That or they're trying to make a political statement about climate change.
Well, that's it. That's it right there. And I do think this is newsworthy because now I don't know if Steve Miller Band's been selling out. The last time I saw him, he opened up for Peter Frampton down at the Wharf. It was one of those. It was a great show, but it was Peter Frampton, Steve Miller Band, right? It's not. We're not talking.
They opened for Frampton.
Yeah. Yeah, Steve Miller Band opened up for Peter Frampton. I was down at the Wharf. It was a great show. It was super cool. And Steve Miller Band still sounds good.
I love him.
Yeah, I do too. But this sounds like maybe he's just, if you're a Steve Miller fan, you're probably bummed out. But for the majority of classic rock fans, what's your thought on this? Okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I didn't know they were touring. So would I go see them? Sure, I'd go see them. But I don't think that anybody's going to stop the world from turning because, oh, no.
Yeah.
You know, so I hope it's not a political statement because I'm not sure it's going to do much other than upset their fans.
Yeah. So we talked about this. I went to the Def Leppard concert and I've seen him 30 times and I took my son. It was his first classic rock show. We were front and center thanks to Live Nation. They took care of us, gave us some great seats and we had a wonderful time. Sat next to Chris Fryer, who of course is the drummer for the Zac Brown Band. He was there and was big fans of mine and I was fans of his, obviously, over the last 20 or 30 years. And I'm actually going to have some lunch with him today. But we were looking at some of the shows coming up. And
you live here?
Huh? Yeah, he does. He lives around these parts here, sure does. And they start a tour in October, and the whole flipping thing is sold out.
I bet
in Europe. I mean, it's everything's sold out.
Oh, they're going to Europe?
Oh yeah, they're done with the States for a while. That's probably going to be the first question. I always wonder what country fans are like in Europe. I don't know what do they wear cowboy hats? They do the same thing that we do over here. They talk about pickup trucks.
And Zac Brown does a lot to support our military troops.
Oh yeah.
And he talks about America a lot and our country. And so I don't know, do they dumb that down a little bit or at all or completely?
That's a great question. I'm going to ask that. I'm going to ask that question.
I mean, if you're in the UK and you're talking about how great America is, how does that play?
That's France. That's a great question. But I did want to ask you, and I know the one concert you were going to go to, it just was stinking hot, and I understand that. But I mean, you got Rod Stewart coming in, you got the Christopher Cross Toto thing you got coming up. Any other shows down at the Coca-Cola Amphitheater that you're looking forward to? It's right in your backyard. Yeah,
Rod Stewart is terrific. I've seen him before. He is really good. He has a large band. I bet he'll have. Well, when I saw him, he had 20 people on stage, which I just really respect people that can play instruments, you know, and I love when there's horns and I mean, he's got violins and mandolins and horns and, you know, and he still sounds great. I mean, he's him, you know, he's himself. He sounds like Rod Stewart. I mean,
August 2nd.
Soccer balls out into the crowd, which is his thing.
He's 80 years old. I mean, 80. I mean,
he ain't going to look at when he gets here. You'll be like, wow, really?
Most of us would be happy to make 80. I'd like to think we were all going to live beyond that, obviously, but that's about what we live to in this country. So, and I think it's super cool because I think a couple of years ago he decided he was not going to play any more of his old classic rock music. He was doing all the storybook stuff, and a lot of fans said, "Listen, we still want to hear 'Do You Think I'm Sexy?' We want to hear Hot Legs." And so he decided to have, and I think this is called One Last Time or One Last.
Still got to hear Infatuation. One more.
Yeah, I mean, really, Young Turks. I mean, I do want to hear that stuff. The thing that he's done a great job at, and I know that James Taylor's done this, Billy Joel's done this. You are right. They surround themselves with so many great, tight musicians that even if their singing's off just a little bit, they've got background singers that sound as good as Rod Stewart. So it sounds like the real deal. Rod Stewart doesn't have to hit the high notes, but the notes will be heard. And I think that's really important, certainly from a fan base.
I was talking to John Oates of Daryl Hall and John Oates.
Yeah.
So in my previous job at Temple, they're Temple guys.
Mm-hmm.
And John Oates did this charity thing for us in a room the size of my office. I mean, it was incredible.
Yeah.
And he said something like, well, I'm going to play you some new things because, I mean, how many times can you hear Maneater? And I was like, are you not going to play Maneater? Like, dude, come on. Really? I know I can appreciate that artists kind of get tired of it, but that's what people love. They want to go see, I bought your music. Now I'd like to see you perform it. If I didn't, otherwise I could just stay at home. Like, I didn't come here to hear you test out some stuff. I mean, you want to test out a song? Cool. But come on, man. You got to play the stuff that brought you here. As my football coach used to say in high school, you got to dance with the girl that brung you.
There you go. There you go. And I'm sure he'll be playing all those songs. All right, my man. Thank you so much. UABsports.com. And of course, you can check him out. Well, the Inferno still doing the thing. I have not got a chance to listen to the Inferno. I'm kind of doing my own podcast thing, but that's still.
Listen to the Inferno podcast here on UABsports.com. And please get your season tickets. I think we're going to have a really good year. I'm very optimistic about football. And Andy Kennedy has 12 new players on the basketball team. Super athletic. So I think we've got a really exciting year in front of us.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Tony.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.